Welcome back to the Top 6 show on Friday. Some big Premier League games ahead this weekend to look at. The PGMOL up to their inconsistent madness again as they target Arsenal. We're also talking about some big transfers as the Tottenham have been rejected for young Tel. He has said, no. He don't want you. After Daniel Levy flew halfway across Europe to try and convince him, he got told no to his face. So loads to talk about today, loads to delve into. We've got a brilliant panel with young Will is here. We have Henry Wright, we have Danielson, and of course my guy Igal, all in the building to give you their thoughts, feelings, and opinions on all the subject matter today. If you make sure you hit the like button, make sure you're subscribing and all of that. But I think we've got to start with Tottenham, Henry, because you've agreed a deal, or you had a deal agreed with Bayern Munich to sign young Tel, and most people had the same gut reaction. So hang on, you've agreed the deal, but the player still needs convincing. It was a bit of a red flag because most of the time personal terms are agreed before bids go in, typically speaking. But Daniel Levy flew up there today to convince him, but he has now told Tottenham, no, I don't want to come to your club. I'm going to wait. We know that Man United are advancing talks. Chelsea is still interested. Arsenal is still interested. Aston Villa. But Spurs have been rejected. Give us your thoughts on that, please, Henry.
Where do I start? We've been rejected by Kolo Muani. He chose Juventus. Tomori will probably reject us as well. If I'm being brutally honest, the football club is an absolute shit show right now. I'll come back to Tel in 1 second, but I'll start with Tel and then I'll get on to Ange. We've approached one of the hottest prospects in Germany. He's probably thinking, I'm 19. The next move is going to be very impactful on my development. Why the fuck would I join 15th place Tottenham? And the narrative will be, but we tried. We don't worry, guys. We tried. Let's go and raise the ticket prices. The football club's a disgrace. The football indecisions. If Mathys Tel was our number one target, then when the window opened on January the 1st, why did we not bid for him? Why have we waited 30 days? 6% of the window. Something stupid like that. Daniel Levy's got the audacity to fly to Germany. I'm happy that not only he's rejected Daniel Levy, he's done it face to face. The football club right now, we are in forget the mud. We are in quicksand, right? We've got incredibly difficult fixtures coming up. We've got an injury crisis. We've got another big injury last night. Oh, but the kids beat Hoffenheim and the kids beat Elfsborg. The next one to reject us is going to be I can't remember the centre back now from AC Milan. Tomori, right? We're heavily linked with him. Why would he leave Champions League AC Milan? We need to understand who we are. Ange keeps telling us is who we are. This is who we are. We are where we should be in the league right now because we've got a manager who can't tactically adapt. We've got an injury crisis and the board do not give a shit, do they? Let's be honest. Right, what have we done? We brought in Kinksky. Yeah, great. Who's going to be sitting on the bench as soon as Vicario's back. So what was the point in that? Oh, but it's Project Youth. Why is Tyler Diblin? What, when he's got Man United who are going to pay more wage and they've got higher chance of winning silverware? Arsenal are apparently interested. Chelsea are interested. What? We need to understand what's going on here. Our recruitment is absolutely diabolical. Oh, but, we put 70 million on the table for Bastoni a couple of years ago, right? And why would Bastoni leave one of the biggest clubs in Italy? I understand raise the standards. I understand Standard FC is going to go, yeah, just keep going. But the football club is a flipping joke. Yep. It really is. We're sitting here right now. We've got Brentford on Sunday. A matter of words, we're going to lose that game. And then everyone's going to be talking about, just focus on the cups. Then we've got Liverpool and Villa, which will probably get knocked out of both cups. And what's the hierarchy doing? But the narrative from the club spokesman is coming out from Ali Gold and coming out from Paul O'Keefe is they're going to back him. All right. So is Mathys Tel and Kinksky backing him, is it? It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. But anyway, I'm negative, apparently, Terry. I'm not a Tottenham fan. Henry talks bollocks. Henry talks Arsenal. It's an absolute disgrace, it is. It really is. but Spurs, it is what it is.
Nobody's surprised. Is anybody surprised? This is the situation Tottenham find themselves in. You're the bottom of the barrel out of the top 6, and you know that. And if anybody in the top 6 is looking for a player, they're probably going to get him over you. And at this moment in time, why would people go to Tottenham unless it's a stepping stone and they're guaranteed that they're going to get a good fee to get a move somewhere else? Overall, I'm not going to completely write off Tottenham's season. You guys are a cup team this year. You're not expected to do anything in the league. So I don't know why you're really going crazy. But Mathys Tel is not going to really go and win you the Europa League, is he? What do you expect from a signing like Mathys Tel? It's just squad depth to help you compete in more competitions. That's it.
Do you know what, Miguel? That's not even the priority. That's not what we need. We need defenders. Why are we going for Tel? Seriously now, a question to the panel in the chat. Why would a team who is crying out for centre-backs and full-backs priority to be signing forward?
Well, I think it's kind of like what you said to like start off in terms of if he was a target, then why didn't you get him early in the window? He wasn't a target because he wanted to stay at Bayern Munich up until a few days ago because they didn't play him in a few games during January. So he's made the decision to leave to get more game time. And I think that Tottenham saw it as like a market opportunity because he's like a young, player, a lot of potential. So it's like, okay, well, we get him in now for 60 million. And then maybe in like 3-4 years, we could sell him for like 100 million. I think that was like the idea behind it. But it's like you said, though, you don't need him. So I know everybody's going to laugh at you, Henry, and everybody's going to banter Tottenham and, oh, you guys are shit, no pull, blah, blah, blah. I would view this as a blessing in disguise because if you would have signed him for 60 million, then you're 100% not doing any other business this window. So now you guys know that your club has that money to spend and you can go and get a defender now, something that you actually need. You don't really necessarily need attackers as much. So I would kind of look at it from the positive side. Mathys Tel, I don't think he's all that anyways. Like how everybody's like hyping him up. I've watched Bayern Munich a few times. He just rides the bench most games. So I don't really think he would make an impact for you like that anyway. So that's how I would view it. Like you should be happy about it, to be honest, bro. But it is embarrassing considering that he did fly there to get told no. So, like, that part's bad. But aside from that, it's a positive, my guy. Like, nothing to be negative about.
Henry, you don't seem to have written off the league. Like, I don't know why do you keep looking at the league finishing? Every time you lose a game in the league.
I wrote off the league about 3 months ago.
So then why do you still get mad every time you drop points in the league? It's like the league doesn't matter.
Because the manager is can't say that word. The manager is a complete and utter fraud, and our fan base are still behind him. Name another club right now that would have a manager for 18 months, be 7 points closer to the relegation zone than we are mid-table. But the club are going to back him. Like, Arsenal wouldn't stand for this. Madrid, as soon as you get below third, right, the gun's out. Man United have sacked their manager.
Henry, you're not Madrid or Arsenal. You're Spurs. Like,
okay,
you're not.
Look at West Ham then, Dan. West Ham have backed their manager.
Yeah, but West Ham have backed their manager in a similar position in seasons gone by.
Yeah, but look at them. But look at some of the signings West Ham.
I think Lopetegui, they went for the grass being greener approach and they got it wrong, and ultimately they did go quickly on that. But in seasons gone by, like Moyes out was there for quite some time, and they continued to stand behind their manager.
West Ham don't make better signings than you. Both you and West Ham do.
Well, they did last summer.
Both you and West Ham do the same thing. You go and get the best of what's left. And the thing is, Tottenham, that's what you did with James Maddison, Solanke. Eventually, when you get the best of what's rest, the best of the rest, you're eventually going to be left with a team full of like second, third choices from everybody else that's a big club. There's a reason why Man United didn't get Maddison
as well. Looks like it's happening. So
Tomori looks like it's happening.
Yeah, I think you're going to end up with Tomori. And I think, like Will said, Tel is a blessing in disguise. I don't think there's enough room in your squad in terms of forwards for him to get guaranteed minutes, which is why I think he's rejecting you. I don't think it's like a personal thing that he doesn't want Spurs. I think he said quite clearly that he wants to come into a team where he's guaranteed to start. And I actually think that says a lot about the personality of the player as well, is that he's not willing to compete against someone else. He wants it handed on a plate. and given that chance. And I think that says a lot. That's not actually probably someone.
That's not necessarily true.
I see a little different to that as well. I don't think it's about wanting it being handed on a plate. He rejected Chelsea, but I think his rationale makes sense. He looks at it, and Chelsea have obviously said you're going to be second or third string. And he's like, well, I want more first team opportunities. When you're 18 years of age, there's that difference, isn't there? It depends on where you are in that pecking order at the club. And if you're told at Chelsea you're going to be third choice, well, how much game time are you going to get to develop yourself? That's his problem at Bayern Munich. It's one of the reasons why Man United are reportedly leading the race for him, because Rashford's going to go. We need more. He'll get more game time and more development time at United. And when you cut back the banter, it is funny that Levy flew out there to get it done and it gets rejected to his face. There is a bit of comedic element to that. But I understand why he's looking at Man United over Chelsea and Tottenham, because from an attacking point of view, we're in a mess in comparison to the two. Like Spurs, you don't really have a problem scoring goals. You have a problem with keeping clean sheets. So as much as it's always nice to improve what you have up front, you don't really need him. You had youngsters that came in, literally him and Moore play the same position, right?
Yeah, Tel can play striker as well.
Yeah, he can play striker as well, but he goes out on that left-hand side. If he's a striker, he's probably going to be behind Richarlison and Solanke right now. So there will be an element of this, if we're being real for a moment, where it's just a player looking at it and saying, well, where can I get the game time? Because I believe I'm better than what you guys are offering me. So I think there's an element of believing in himself, but also it's rejecting the offers. And the offers from each club are not all the same. But on Tomori, spoke to Don earlier, who said he's a calamity waiting to happen. He's a bang average defender, essentially. What do the panel think of Tomori going to Tottenham? Is that something that will improve them, or is it another clanger waiting in the wings?
Well, I remember when he was first at AC Milan, I remember he was playing pretty well. And I remember people talking about him like getting into the England setup and starting and stuff like that. So I'm not sure like where it went wrong, because I swear he was doing really well at AC Milan. But again, I think Tomori, better deal than getting Intel. He fits the need that you have, right? You're thin at the back. Your center backs cannot stay fit. So he's English as well. He probably wants to come back home. Yeah, I mean, like, why not? I think it would be a good piece of business. How much would he cost?
30 million euros, apparently. If we sign Tomori, that's what, like £25 million? I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
We've got Dragusin, who, well, reports are saying he may have done his ACL from that thing last night, which
looked bad. It looked really bad.
Essentially means the only fit centre back we've got right now is Ben Davies, because Romero and Van der Ven are being wrapped up in cotton wool. So people are saying Tomori's a scrub. I mean, he's an experienced player. He's won a league title. He's played in the Champions League. He's a better defender than Bradley.
Like he's rapid and he'll play on a high line. So he does fit the system in that sense.
So in other words, his hamstring's going.
His hamstring will, like, I was just about to check his injury history. I don't know it, but he had injury issues his whole career at Milan and Chelsea. So I think he fits Tottenham perfectly.
Another dig there. Yeah, look, I get it. I get why you're angry and you're frustrated. I think you'll get on this weekend. Do you feel like Ange is close to getting sacked? Do you feel like he's on the edge, or you think he's going to be back fully?
Yeah. See, I don't think we'll beat Brentford. I don't think we'll beat Villa, and I don't think we'll beat Liverpool. We've got 3 tough away games. The Brentford game, we all know what they're going to do. They're going to sit back. We're going to have all the ball, and they're going to get Wissa and Buemo and counter. You know, that's what they do best. And they're very, very good at home. You know, I don't expect Tottenham to get anything out of that game. I know a lot of our fan base do, but I think the club are at a point now, this is not my opinion, this is the club. If they sack Ange, that would be 17 managers in 25 years. So we've already tried the win now managers of Conte and Mourinho. We actually had a manager. The longest time we had a manager in that time period was Pochettino, and even he went 587 days without a transfer. So if they sack Ange Postecoglou now, no one's going to come in with 15 league games remaining. You know, and I would rather Ryan Mason's just as bad. I would rather have him gone in December or October or November when I personally thought they should have gone then. We could have brought someone in. Like, and the narrative that why would Iriola or why would Marco Silva leave Fulham and Bournemouth? Well, for starters, they're going to get their salaries quadrupled. right? I think Iriola's on €4 million a year. Daniel Levy is notoriously one of the highest pays the managers, one of the highest in the league. So I don't think that the question answers your question. I don't think they're going to sack Ange. And I honestly, with our fixtures coming up, we are hovering close to that relegation battle. And the narrative in the fan base is Terry, but just give them the cups. So next Sunday, when we've knocked out of the League Cup and the FA Cup, I'm going to come back on here on the following Monday. And I just want to know what the narrative is going to be then. Because once we're out of the cups, what's the aim of our season? Stay up? Because it's just absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen a football club in all my life. Everyone can take the piss out of the Glazers and Ineos. Everyone can say how bad the Cronkies are. Everyone can say how bad, Clear Lake are. Tottenham have the second highest season ticket price in the league, right? And majority of our fans just clap up this crap, rinse, cycle, repeat, put us in a flipping washing machine, bring another manager in, won't back him, everyone gets all giddy, and then the same thing happens. The same rinse, cycle, repeat, year after year after year. One League Cup in 24 years. Will's been following football since, 2015? 2014, you said?
2014.
Right. Look, I mean, comparing Tottenham to Real Madrid is like comparing a Fiat to a Ferrari, but like when you're the other day ranting saying Carlo Ancelotti out, you want to see what it's like at Tottenham because it's like a lion chasing a gazelle trying to eat, but you're never ever going to get the gazelle. So you're going round and round and round and round, and then the narrative is you're negative.
It's a bad analogy though, because at some point lions catch gazelles. You guys never do.
It's going to be a skinny lion, then, isn't it?
I'm just saying, like,
and to refer to Spurs as a lion, it just doesn't feel right.
No, not a lion. Maybe a goat.
No, it was the analogy would be it is like a domesticated pussycat chasing a gazelle. I think that's fair.
Hey, look, don't worry, Henry. When you win the Carabao Cup this season, you'll have something to smile about. Don't worry, bro.
Yeah,
I actually rate your squad. When you guys are fit, I think Tottenham have a very good team. But
do you honestly think not even with a fully fit, do you honestly think we can beat this Liverpool side?
Yeah, like that's my bold prediction. I think that you guys do it this season.
Tomori dagger in the 90th minute.
I listen. I have all the teams left in it. I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet with Newcastle fans at the moment. I don't like it's not all of them. I know a lot of Newcastle fans. I've got cousins that are Newcastle fans, but they are the predominant fan base that is pushing this lie that taxpayers in England are paying for Man United's new stadium. And I'm talking giant accounts posting it and people sharing it. Like people having sensible conversations, showing them the evidence that no taxpayer money's happening, and they're just like hiding the messages and then reposting these things again. So I've got a little bit of a bee in my bonnet in there, and I feel like if you're going to perpetuate a lie like that, that can be quite damaging. I don't want you winning trophies, just on a personal level. Of course, I don't want Liverpool to win it because they're my biggest rival. And honestly, the carnage. I still want the North London derby in the final. I pray to God it happens because it's just carnage. And then for me, people go, "Oh, Terry will want Arsenal to win." No, I don't. I'd like Spurs to then beat Arsenal and then watch the carnage because I enjoy it. I enjoy watching fan content. So, yeah, for me, I hope they do it, Spurs. But personally, I think they're going to Anfield and conceding 4 or 5 goals. I don't see them happening it. Yeah. I think they're going to get a new one drilled in, mate. They're going to get a new hole drilled into it, drilled into them up there. I really, really do. Breaking news has just come out. It's official, confirmed. John Duran joins Al Nassr for €77 million deal plus add-ons from Aston Villa. He's going to play with Cristiano Ronaldo and Sadio Mane.
It's a bad deal. Makes no sense. I mean, it's a good deal for the player, right? Because he's, he just his life just completely switched in terms of the money that he's making. But they need creators. I just don't get it. You have Ronaldo up top.
This has nothing to do
with play next to him. It's they need people to provide service.
I don't think it's a footballing decision. I think it's a marketability decision because he's one of the most marketable players out of Colombia right now. He's probably one of the hottest prospects out of that country. So,
but if they wanted to market in Colombia, then James Rodriguez was free. They could have signed him for free. James Rodriguez is a much bigger name. And the Saudi League is probably more so his speed. I don't think 77 million.
I think
20 million a year tax free for the next 4 or 5 years is gonna.
Well, you got to remember.
You
got to remember though that is a pittance to the people funding this. Secondly, I think they've done it because what that league needs, it needs Cristiano Ronaldo to win the league, and I think they're top at the moment, but it's close, and they haven't won it since he's been there. So I think it's a case of let's throw as much money as we can, bring in, and they've gone and signed a young European sort of European-based player for one of the first times who really could have gone to a number of other clubs. He'll go there and score loads of goals. They'll win the league, and then they get those pictures of Ronaldo holding that league trophy is what the Saudi league needs, because that marketability is there to say Ronaldo won this, and it will, of course, he's got more followers, I think, Cristiano Ronaldo, than something like 70% of countries have residents living in them. He's that big, right? It's like, so yeah, for them, that's the point.
But I watched the Saudi league though, and John Duran's not going to help them because they're not going to beat Al Hilal. Like, they won the league without Neymar last season, invincible. Like, their team is crazy.
No, I hear you.
Like, the business that Ronaldo's team is doing, it makes no sense.
But I don't think a lot of their business is always directly football related. They're not. Yeah. I think a lot is that. But in terms of Duran taking the deal, a lot of people are angry about it because they feel that as a young man, he had a really promising future in the European game. Is it right or wrong that he's gone? Do people think it's a good decision from him to go and play football in Saudi now, or is it a case of he's getting his money, he's changing his family's life, and that's all that matters?
Yeah,
I'm on the latter.
Yeah, good move.
Football legacy does not pay the bills, does not set up generational wealth. 20 million a year tax free, that definitely does. I could never blame a player that takes the money ever.
Also, he could come back after 5 years, guys. Let's not act like he's not young.
What would he be now? Like 25?
Like 26, 24? Bro.
26.
25,
yeah,
26, he can come back into any league and probably still play at a top level. And at this point, you guys are right. He's setting himself up perfectly for the right. What is it? The equivalent of 10 years of wages that you'd earn in Europe compared to 5 years over there.
Yeah, all tax free as well.
Well, do you know what the thing is, bro? Like, people don't use real life sense when it comes to football. It's like we expect players to turn down money, but then it's like, if I'm going to a job, would I tell them that I'll take less money because I love working at the company? No, I'm gonna want as much money as possible. So, like, why does it, when it comes to footballers, we expect them to just take less money and just be happy and just come on, bro?
Yeah, I get it. I do get it. I don't think it's a complete myth, though. I understand he's gone. The money is amazing. 20 million a year tax free. If he does well, that will probably get increased. I do understand. It can come back as well. I'm not hating on the decision. I think it depends on what motivates you, though. I saw Adi Akinfenwa on a podcast yesterday talk about how as you get older, what you think legacy means is different. He said, my legacy is about what I leave to my kids as a father. That matters more to me than what I win as a football player. I get where Adi Akinfenwa is coming from, but he spent the majority of his career Championship League One level, where the money's good, but it isn't. You can't. Most players that play at that level can't just retire for the rest of their lives. So I get why he would see it differently. If Adi Akinfenwa was one of the top strikers in the Premier League, he'd have been making massive money, even bigger endorsements, and he probably would have that. You know, Harry Kane doesn't need to go to Saudi Arabia for generational wealth. He's got it. Wayne Rooney's worth 180 million pounds. He's been retired years, right? Beckham did it. I think there is an element here of what you're motivated by. And for some people, and there's no shame in life of the security and the money being the key motivator. For some people, though, there is an element. I don't think you could become a Lionel Messi in terms of people knowing who you are. You couldn't become a Maradona or a Pele or a Beckham. I don't think you can do that going to Saudi or going to the MLS Young for big money. You've got to do it in European football and win those big trophies. So I don't hate on him for making this decision. It's more about, I think, people understanding that different people are motivated by different things. Some people are motivated. Some people in life genuinely are motivated more by status than they are money. Some people, it's more about security. So the money is a key thing. For some people, there's a sort of a feel of being wanted that motivates. And we see players sometimes turn down bigger contracts at big clubs to go, but this club wanted me more. They put more energy into it. And I think that I'm really open-minded to that. I'm on a personal level disappointed that we're not going to see him in European football. but I don't take that out. I'm mature enough to not take that out on the player, if that makes sense. I wanted to see him.
But Terry, if a player comes to European football at 26, you'd be like, oh, it's still a good age to come to European football.
Guys,
Like he can come in and prove himself at 26 and hit the ground running.
Nah,
He's going to
but
be off
Dan,
the back of
one
Mane,
second.
Ronaldo.
I'm not even coming back. I'll extend another 5 years.
No. See, that's when if
Dan, let me
I
ask
don't
you
know
this
about
question,
that.
though. Dan, but the
That's
thing I would throw at you on that, the challenge I would throw you again, if you're coming back then to create a legacy, you would argue if you're leaving 20, 30 million tax-free a year, you're coming back more to try and win something that's substantial. Yeah. How many players in the modern day era come to European football at 26 years of age and then become powerhouse successes? It happened more in the 80s and the 90s, but you've got to remember that South American football, as an example, had a much higher ceiling because now most of the top Argentinians, Chileans, Brazilians are already in Europe at 15, 16. That never used to happen. They were bought as 18, 19, 20, 21, sometimes even older than that. So they had a really good footballing pedigree. What I don't know what will happen for him, and I don't want to disrespect Saudi football, and if people can educate me on this, I'm always open for learning. Will he develop and be the same 26-year-old playing for 3 or 4 years in Saudi as playing in Serie A, playing in La Liga, playing in the Premier League? If the standard of football you play at is lower, do you develop to be that player at 26 that you would be?
Well, the standard of football is Neymar and Ronaldo have said it's as good as, if not better than Liga. So he's playing a level of football which is considered to be top 5, 6 European level league.
Okay.
There's plenty of players over there that he can learn from. They've got some of the best managers in world football over there. The
but you are playing in front of about 1,000 people every
all
week.
right, yeah, but the crowds might be the only.
No, there's massive crowds, bro.
There's massive crowd for Al Hilal and Al Nassr
in the biggest games.
Yeah. Do you know that Al Hilal, I think they're like the second most successful club in the world, period.
Yeah.
Like
no, they are.
I would be playing against bricklayers every week.
I got a whole different level.
Come on, nah.
One second.
I would slap you guys up right now.
I got a whole different take on this.
They would
forget about having to leave Saudi to go back into European football. What if they let Saudi league teams into the Champions League? Because we got Azerbaijan, we got Israeli teams in the Champions League. What's holding them back from adding the Saudi Pro League into the Champions League?
Because financially they'll take over a lot of the European competitions. That's why they won't do it. They've got more money.
Won't mind the profit off the back of that, Henry.
Well, look, they would then have to adhere to regulations similar to the other teams.
But that's why they won't do it, because an FFP comes into it. And what I would say is probably likely is I don't know how much genuine revenue those clubs make. Because
that would be their end goal, Terry. Their end goal would be to try to get.
I understand that. The point I'm making is what is their actual revenue as clubs? Because if they joined UEFA's competitions, they'd have to follow FFP. And if some of those clubs, if they're only turning over, they would have to also open. And again, we know who owns all these football clubs. They'd have to open up their books so that UEFA could look at them, and they'd have to have genuine income. And if they're paying like players 20, like they've got 10 players in their team on £20 million a year salary, they're gonna have to have a turnover of 2 billion. Between £1 and £2 billion a year. So I listen. I'm not against it. I'm someone that's I'm always for the progression of things. As you say, we have clubs currently playing in European competitions that are not in Europe. You've seen Australia on a national level stopped qualifying for World Cups playing in Australasia because it was too easy. They've moved into the Asian market, and that was to make themselves a better nation at football because they found it too easy playing against Tasmania and New Zealand as an example. So yeah, I'm not against it. I'll never be against something like that. I like the idea of the competition, but I'm not too sure if they would actually go for it. But
they also have the new Club World Cup format, obviously, it's going to be in the summer. And I think teams in Saudi Arabia are going to be heavily committed to being a big part of that tournament and trying to win. Because if a Saudi Arabian team and Ronaldo or someone go and win that tournament, that'll be absolutely massive.
But they have a chance, though, Dan.
They do indeed, Will. They've got fantastic players over there. And I think if you look through Al Nassr's team, like there's a number of top quality players there. Like that's a real strong team. If that was in European football, people would be backing that team to do something.
I'm open. As I say, I was asking the question. I'm open-minded to it. I'll certainly be watching. I'll be watching them at the World Club Championship. And if they go and do well and beat a few established teams, a few big teams, you know, it might start making more young players say, well, actually, I'll fancy it. The good thing is, though, this is what I would say to the European clubs, is the good thing is if they want your players, you can get, because I don't think anyone in England is bidding 80 million, anyone in Europe bidding 80 million euros for Matoma. The one thing you can get, and this is where a lot of our clubs have FFP problems. We can start doing to Saudi what the rest of Europe does to the Premier League. If you're like, right, we need to raise some money, or we don't want Rashford anymore. If it becomes a league that lots of players are willing to join, which maybe right now they're not, it'd be a lot easier to go, well, there's Rashford for 80 million, 90 million.
But
No
then
European clubs doing
if
that.
a lot of players want to join them initially, then maybe the fees won't be as high because they're giving you this exuberant amount of money to convince you. So it's like if the reputation of the league grows, and then if it's very respected, now it's like, well, we don't have to overpay to convince players now.
That's a great point.
But they can't even convince Matoma from Brighton to go for like, and he would have been on unbelievable money, 90 million euros. Like,
but I think Brighton turned that down, not Matoma per se. Like Brighton,
I'm not sure. I don't see how Brighton can be turning down that amount of money for
because
Matoma.
the TV deal. Like Brighton don't need to sell. Like the thing is the Premier League TV money.
Come on, it doesn't matter how rich you like. If you spoke to Tony Bloom and said you could have an extra 100 million in your turnover this year, he's not saying no. He's not saying no.
I'm surprised.
They're not exactly going to get relegated, are they?
I agree.
Yeah, but you're not saying no to an extra 100 million in turnover.
Oh, they kept him because of marketing, Will? That's what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is I didn't see any reports that Matoma rejected the move. All the reports that I saw said Brighton don't want to sell him at any cost.
Nothing
ever said that Matoma said no.
Yeah, I think Brighton, though, if you look at what they've spent recently, they will still sell players, but they've 2 years running, they've broke their own spending records. They are trying to progress as a team, and there comes a point, if their words are to be taken seriously, there comes a point where you have to start turning down bids, where you have to start taking a lot of that money. And that's why when some people go, oh, they earned 400 million in transfers, they should have spent 400 million. No. They should keep a lot of that cash, because then what they can do is increase the wages of players over time and stop them from, because that's what they're going to have to essentially start doing. If they could have turned around to like a number of, if they had the finances over the last 3 years to turn around to McAllister and Caicedo and co and say, there's 150, 200 grand a week in wages, they might have been able to keep some of them. If they really want to become a team that wins, that they're going to have to get into that mind frame. Of course, Ronaldo and Neymar will say it's the equivalent of Liga and Serie A. They are paid to promote the league. They play in it. But this is the thing, Wayne. This is why the World Club Championship is going to be an acid test, I suppose. They go there and they get battered by a lot of the European teams, and they look. You remember when like Premier League teams have the friendlies against the MLS sides, and typically speaking, if they beat them up 5-6-0 at a time, and it's like then it's going to look really silly. They go and do a good job. They knock Chelsea out, or they knock City out, or whatever. I'm talking about the big teams that are going to be there. It changes everybody's mindset on it. So yeah, I'm open-minded to it until I watch them play. Calm down.
Real Madrid in the group stage. So that will be a great litmus test, because that's the best team that they have to offer. So
who is that? So Will, which team?
Al Hilal. It's the team that Neymar just left.
Yeah.
Joshua Jack here says, calm down, Henry. Just don't kick the chair again, is what Joshua Jack says here. Yeah, is your leg recovered after you got beat up by a chair?
My leg has, but the chair hasn't. The chair's,
that chair, I have never seen a weaker kick in my life. It was so bad.
Were you trying not to make noise? I'm confused.
It's just a heavy chair.
No, he was trying to kick it hard, and he's weak. That's all it is.
No, it's not. It's a heavy chair. That's what it is.
Moving on from this conversation, I want to pose this question to Igal first, and then it's for everybody else to speak about. Arsenal Football Club in the past 24 hours have been charged by the FA for failing to control their players. The club have allegedly failed to ensure that its player did not behave in an inappropriate manner around the 43rd minute. Arsenal have until Monday, the 3rd of February, to provide a response. So Arsenal have been charged after the players surrounded Michael Oliver when Lewis Skelly was sent off. Of course, the PGMOL doubled down and said it was the correct decision, and they gave clear rationale, and they actually made a very strong statement Saturday that it is unequivocally the right decision. Michael Oliver, of course, backed his decision, only for it to be one of the fastest turnovers in an appeal ever. It was submitted within an hour or so. I mean, quicker than Spurs got rejected today, Arsenal's appeal was overturned by the panel. Only then for Arsenal, we've then seen the onslaught from the media, backed by the PGMOL. Arteta is at fault. This is really Arsenal's problem, as opposed to the referees making mistakes. People are outraged that Michael Oliver's been taken off the City Arsenal game this week, and now they've been charged. People are calling it targeted. People are saying that it's hypocritical because there's countless examples. I mean, my own club, Man United, recently surrounded a ref and weren't charged. Most weeks, most clubs will surround a referee and shout at him at some point, and most teams are not charged. But Arsenal seem to have been targeted again. Is that how you see this, Gal? And what do you make of this situation?
They want to stay wrong and strong, even though there's clear evidence that he made the wrong decision. They stand by the wrong decision. They don't want to take any accountability that the referee made a mistake. They don't want to hold any of their guys accountable for making errors. They want to push the blame onto Arsenal fans. We're the problem because we have an issue with the refereeing decision. As if we're being delinquents or something. And then this is clear retaliation to the fact that they had the 3-match ban overturned so quickly. It makes them look very silly. So this is clear retaliation. In the same game, you had Wolves players circulating the referee numerous times. I've seen Erling Haaland shout at a referee in his face and get in his grill, and nothing happened to Erling Haaland and Man City in that situation. So I am really saying to myself that this is clear retaliation. The referees, they don't know what they're doing when they make these mistakes. They try whatever they can, whatever subjective decision to justify their mistakes, and there needs to be overhaul. There needs to be some sort of change. They need to have an independent body overview referees, be it in game with VR being held by another body, or somebody has to review every decision they make, because some of these red cards that they're standing by are clearly incorrect. And it's not just a retaliation to Arsenal. Bro, how are they this incompetent that they're going to take it to the level where they're basically telling everybody you're wrong? Everybody's wrong but them. It's ridiculous.
I think what's really interesting, I was going to read this from Henry Winter. I need to find it again now. 1 second. Because it was interesting what he said. Sports journalist Henry Winter, he wrote, and I quote, if I can find it, here it is. He said, Arsenal players wrong for surrounding the ref, but they were complaining about a wrong decision that got overturned too. The FA has been consistent and has to now be consistent with every team's players who surround the ref. The ref disrespect, refs deserve respect. Absolutely. Players deserve consistent and correct decisions. And this for me is where I think the FA have gone again and made another rod for their own back. So I understand Michael Oliver in real time giving that red card if he sees it a particular way. VAR has doubled down and backed it, and they've been absolutely mullered by the majority of journalists to begin with. But what then I've seen is this sort of, after a couple of days, you started seeing the journalists turn and then go at Arsenal, which I found interesting. There was an article written, I don't know if you guys have seen it, which was using words like premeditated attack. Lewis Skelly is the real villain of all of this. That got deleted by the publication 24 hours later. On top of that,
5 hours.
5 hours, sorry. The bit for me is it isn't the mistake that I personally have an issue with. It's the way they try and justify the mistake, but in their justification, they find a nuance or they find a way they can word or explain the rules to go, this is why it was a red, or this is why it wasn't a red. This is why we sent the manager off. This is why we had to do X. Only for there to be 15 other decisions that are very similar or identical that they didn't apply that with. And they've done that here by charging Arsenal, because you can guarantee over tomorrow and Sunday's games, players are going to shout and surround the referee. Some players won't get booked for it at all. And you'll see maybe no club get charged for it. Or maybe they'll make a bit of a song and dance this weekend and they'll make sure that a few teams get charged for it, and then it will disappear and go away. And I think that the likes of Gary Neville this week, a lot of the media outlets, a lot of the mainstream media, a lot of the television companies that play the games, yes, there are some Arsenal fans that believe in widespread conspiracy that it only impacts their team, and they are wrong to think it only impacts their team. But most Arsenal fans with a functional brain are complaining about the inconsistencies and the explanations as opposed to anything else. And I think they're absolutely right to do that. And all football fans should be calling this out. It's horrendous. I'm not even annoyed that Arsenal have been charged. I just know that another team is going to surround a ref this weekend and nothing's going to happen.
Terry,
And they make themselves look so stupid, the FA and the PGMOL, and they have no need to. It's crazy.
I have an issue with Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher also. They're not being honest anymore. At this point, they are cheerleaders for the PGMOL and the refereeing bodies because they're not giving their honest opinions on decisions. They're not giving their honest opinions on things that have gone wrong. They will tell you, you know what, I thought it was a yellow card, but then go on and say, well, Arsenal made mistakes. Well, their fans did this. Well, their fans did that. And it just comes off as if they're protecting their pockets and making sure that
is that because they've got an affinity to PGMOL with like working with Sky? Is that what you think?
No, it's because they've worked with Howard Webb, and Howard Webb is the chief of the PGMOL. And even on their own show, there's been referees who've said that they have clear biases against certain teams, but then afterwards, now they're saying, "Oh well, I don't think Arsenal's being targeted. I don't think this decision was because it's Arsenal." Don't forget, guys, we weren't too long removed where Arteta was about to get banned, but then overturned it because of a technicality where he said disgracia, not disgrace, on TV, and then coincidentally, the next game he got a match ban for too many yellow cards. I do think there is a level where referees go into games with some sort of bias, but to sit there and say that there's all their decisions are right and the people complaining are the problem is blatantly lying to us and no longer being fair TV personalities. It almost is like the YouTubers like ourselves are the ones actually talking about the game properly, and the people on TV are the one yelling and screaming like they're the victims.
Yeah, I hear that, to be fair. I think the only issue I'd say is that these companies like Sky and other companies, they have like people in charge where they have to protect relationships because they have shows and things like that. So maybe then they're not allowed to vocalize their opinion. I'm not sure. Whereas we don't necessarily have that affinity and we can be a little bit more open with how we believe it's going. But I agree with what you and Terry were saying is that continuously there will be clubs doing exactly what Arsenal did off the back of a referee making a mistake, and then the club will still be punished. And I think that's the issue in isolation, is that if the referee's decision is so poor, then it should almost clear the slate for failing to control your players if the red card is rescinded. If there is a debatable moment where it's not quite, and then it obviously goes to VAR, or afterwards the appeal doesn't go through and doesn't work, then I can understand it being upheld. But the fact Terry said it was one of the quickest ever, then I think actually there's a reason the players weren't controllable because the referee's decision was so outrageous.
Yeah, and I think the worst part about it is, guys, they doubled down, they tripled down.
I think Chelsea got one off the back of Delap's penalty against Ipswich. If you remember that, where Delap obviously didn't have any contact against him. I think Chelsea got one for failing to control their players. So I guess as a league, they're trying to set it that only the captain can speak and anyone else getting involved is going to be the issue.
Yeah, but Dan, not just this incident, how many have the Premier League done this weekend where it's like every single weekend there's a level of bias from referees and it's another controversial decision. I mean,
yeah. So
you watch La Liga practically. I imagine you watch every single Madrid game. Do you ever see anything like this?
Sometimes.
In the Champions League, I don't think you see anything like this.
Yeah, no. Like the refs in Spain aren't perfect either. Like they have some weird.
In Spain, right? This is not a lie. In Spain at the moment, there's a movement that the Spanish FA are trying to recruit English referees because they believe the standard of refereeing is higher from English referees than Spanish.
I saw that report. They said that Florentino Perez.
That's crazy,
Will,
referees.
And I'm thinking, but he's old. Like, so just bless his heart. But I don't necessarily think that he knows exactly what he's watching. There's no way.
Nah, but you know what it is?
But Henry, I want. Sorry, not Henry. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I did want to ask you, bro. So and if you said it already, then forgive me. But what are the punishments for what they're charging you with?
Bro, it's like a 10K or 20K.
It's a fine, right? And the more you do it, Will, the higher the fine gets. So I think Chelsea last year did it like 4 or 5 times, and by the time it got to the final time they did it, I think it was like a 250 grand fine. So they level it up every time.
It's like 10K or something like that.
Yeah.
Or 100K.
Why didn't Erling Haaland get a fine for screaming in the referee's face? Why why did Everton not get a fine when Rodri blatantly handballed it Everton versus Man City, and the Everton players were surrounding the ref. I'm not defending Arsenal, but whenever there's a rule, it seems like when Arsenal play it, they have to make sure that rule is stuck to. But when it's Chelsea or City or Spurs,
nah, not Chelsea, Henry. We're not doing Chelsea.
Look at the same weekend, right? When it was the Saliba red card, Van de Ven brought down a Crystal Palace player, and it was a similar thing happening in Chelsea versus Liverpool. The Van de Ven one was a lot closer to goal, and it wasn't even a red card. But Saliba gets sent off against Bournemouth, and was it Tosin Adebayo on Jota?
It was, but if you go and rewatch that challenge, it is actually different to Saliba.
You know, guys,
It's all on the same weekend, though.
Yeah, I hear you, but I can see the difference in why Saliba's... Look, Saliba's was because we all saw Harold Webb at the game go...
It was so was Van de Ven.
Yeah, bro, that was weird.
Like,
you can't lie. That was fishy to have the head of the PGMOL sitting at the game watching almost as if he's listening to something. And the funniest thing is, did you guys see Jamie Carragher tweeted, did Thing just get involved with that goal? He literally tweeted, did he get involved in that decision? Because he was at the game, he's seen him, and then
he did. It was so obvious. He was like that, and then literally on his phone straight away. He got involved in that decision, no doubt.
I haven't said this on YouTube before, but I genuinely believe it. I feel like Arsenal this season, we would have another 6 or 7 points if it wasn't for some of these referee decisions. And I hold my team accountable for some of our poor performances. But you can look at that Brighton.
What are the decisions?
You can look at that Brighton game where we got Declan Rice sent off for kicking the ball away. I thought that was outrageous.
I'm going to count. You name him, I'm counting.
So that's 2 points.
You'd won that game.
So that's one. That's 2 points drop.
Yeah.
City game where Trossard got a second yellow for kicking the ball away. I haven't seen anyone get a second yellow for kicking the ball away since. So that's another 4 points, right? That's 4 points in 2 games right there. The Bournemouth game away when Saliba got sent off, we were in control of that game before.
I think that one was a red card though.
I think that is a red. I think it's a red.
Okay, so if you don't want to give that one, fair enough. Let's keep it
still
moving.
4 points, which is putting you in a much better
Liverpool?
position.
What about Liverpool at home? The winner, we could have got the winner, but they disallowed it because they said Kivior fouled Robertson for the jump ball header, and they literally disallowed. They blew the whistle just before we were about to score the goal for that final. For that, it could have been a potential winner against Liverpool, and that would have been like
that's a 6-pointer.
That could have been a 6-point swing right there. The header that they deemed a penalty versus Saliba. Now, you guys might be saying this guy's just saying every decision is going against him, but some of these decisions are 50-50s. You don't see a 50-50 challenge in the box for a header get given as a penalty.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, we haven't seen that again. Fair enough. Or before. So we're between 7 to 9 points here and 3 points off the leaders. So you'd probably be top of the league off of refereeing decisions alone.
Now.
I'm not. I just counted it on. No, I'm actually not. I'm being deadly serious, right? Because I agree with you on. I think some of them get a bit close, like the Bournemouth one. I actually think probably a red card, but I do think like Saliba's one for the penalty we've never seen before or again. Because if that happened anywhere else on the pitch, it wouldn't be a free kick.
I've not even seen that happen in any league, let alone the Premier League. Any league.
Yeah. No, I'm not taking the mick here. I genuinely, I've spoke to like Rory so many times about this. Off of just refereeing decisions alone, you would be probably in or top of the league.
So now you understand why Arsenal fans are very sensitive when it comes to these refereeing decisions.
Yeah, and the stats are there off the back of Michael Oliver as well. When he is in charge of you, there is quite clearly something that affects his decision making in those games. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's biasness. I don't know whether it's the atmosphere. What it is, I'm not sure. But factually, he has never sent off a Manchester City player. He's been involved in a number of Arsenal Manchester City games. Has not awarded big decisions against Manchester City. Handballs, Kovacic against Odegaard last season could have easily been a red card.
The Doku kick in the chest from McAllister.
Like there is a number of decisions, right? And when you've got people like Jamie O'Hara going on TalkSport calling that out as a Spurs fan, then you know something is happening. And we've seen it already with David Coote. We've seen it with obviously Anthony Taylor, but with Chelsea, there's obviously a huge issue there. There's no denying that referees and certain teams, the decisions start to raise eyebrows. There's no denying it whatsoever. But then when you go a little bit deeper and you find out that Oliver's been employed by the owners of Manchester City and in Qatari football, whatever, it starts to just look a little bit like I don't know. I
Bro,
don't
it's
think
not
it's
only
got to be
Arsenal.
the ref.
You guys get biased refereeing from what's it called, Anthony Taylor. You do
We do 100%.
You do see a higher level of things. I think Mike Dean used to give Spurs the most sending offs, if I'm not mistaken. We used to see him give them a lot of sending offs. But hey, Manchester United probably have had referees that they felt like were against them also.
Wait, so Igal, so if you guys don't win anything this season, then like would that kind of be like the talking point then is like we didn't win because of the refs, or would you still kind of be okay with people saying that it's Arteta, it's just not good enough?
No, I think injuries would also be a massive factor.
Yeah.
I think injuries would. I don't think people realize. People talk about Tottenham having a massive injury crisis. We've actually had more players miss games than Tottenham have. Tottenham just have had their center.
Players,
Tottenham
you
have just had.
You haven't lost your back four and your goalkeeper in
Well,
a
they lost Saliba for a bit, Henry. They've lost Odegaard.
Yeah, but
and now
Gal,
they've lost
we're playing
Bro.
18-year-old midfielders at centre back.
1 second. I understand you're playing 18-year-olds, but it's just because we have better squad.
That's the difference in squad depth, though. Whereas Arsenal have players in terms of squad depth that are not.
How many big injuries have you had? You had Saka, Odegaard,
Saliba,
Calafiori. It's only 2 games though, wasn't it?
I literally don't know it off the top of my head. I need to remember by checking.
Ben White for a huge period of time.
Just to go over it quickly. If I'm not mistaken, this season, first of all, write off some of our defenders. Like just name all our defenders. They've all missed games except for 2 players. Everyone in our defense has missed games due to injuries and suspensions alone. The whole attack has all missed games. Martinelli and Trossard are only players who've been fit the whole season. So every single player has missed games.
You probably had a similar amount, but we've had, not to compare, saying we've won the injury battle, but a lot of our injuries have been, like Van de Ven's been out for 3 months now. Romero's been out for 3 months. Vicario out for 4 months. Like, any team's going to have a massive drop-off when you lose two your main centre-backs and a goalkeeper. That's not excusing Ange Postecoglou. But when you've had a lot of these injuries, you've done well. Like, 1 year he stepped up for you. We don't have anyone.
I think you've got blitzed, Henry, right? You lost so many at once.
But no, Henry, no disrespect, but what we're going for and what you're going for is 2 completely different things.
Yeah, of course.
We're trying to go for the league with one of our best creators out, one of the best players in the league in Saka missing games, Saliba missing games here and there due to suspensions and injuries, Declan Rice missing games. You have the whole back line. We've had 4 more back line combinations than we did all of last season. On top of that, we've had numerous players that are key in our team drop out due to crucial injuries, like Jesus, like Bukayo Saka, like Martin Odegaard. I said his name already, but you know what I mean, man. It's just been.
But what Arteta's doing well, Gal, is that when you've got those injuries, he's adapting and he's showing that you have to play in a different way. I think you can go look at Bournemouth and Iriola, and he goes down to 13 and he adapts and he's pragmatic about it. Ange isn't changing when his squad is being ripped apart and decimated by injuries, and that is costing him points in the league because he's still trying to play the same way with different personnel.
I don't even want to compare it to Ange right now. I'm just looking at our recruitment, and I'm saying to myself, we don't seem to be taking this opportunity that we have serious. I'm just going to speak about Arsenal here, not Tottenham. Arsenal have an opportunity where the last 2 years we were so close to winning the league. We have to strike when the iron's hot. And if we do not take it serious, it could be a situation where this passes us by, and this moment of us continuing to push on to win the league, there's no guarantee it's going to be there next season or the year after that or the year after that. Now, I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom and next year will fall off, but there is no guarantee that you are going to continuously have all your players available to compete at this level. Man City have dropped off this season. It's literally us and Liverpool. Arsenal have an opportunity this window to improve the team, to get us over the line. They don't seem to be doing that. And if we go into the summer and we don't kick on again, we could just be back in the same situation next season where we're just challenging for the league again and we're not looking like we're getting any better. And that's why I'm frustrated. Forget about the injuries. Forget about the red cards for a second. I just don't see the urgency from the top. And I see it.
What, to make a signing ago? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Because
do you not feel that the iron was more hot at this point last season and the summer than it is now? Because you've got like Saka out for a good amount of time. You've had a number of injuries this season. All right, points-wise, you're still there or thereabouts. But I feel like the iron was hotter at this point last year and in the summer.
Bro, 2 years ago, we made a bigger we tried more by getting Trossard and Jorginho.
That's what I mean, right? And I think last January and the summer was your opportunity to strike and go and get maybe Isak on a
this
cheap
summer was a failure.
Or,
to be honest,
I agree with you. And I think this summer, had you signed a striker, had you gone and got Ollie Watkins in the summer, I think now you might be in a position where you're not talking about chasing Liverpool. You're in a position where you're competing with Liverpool.
No, but I think the issue was trusting and giving Jesus another season. Trusting in Havertz being leading the line.
You know what's really interesting about the Arsenal conversation? Just very quickly, I wanted to say about the excuses. Refereeing decisions are part of an issue, but there should be no Arsenal fan that ignores the club not buying players, a bad managerial situation, or a player not having a good time. I think there's too much of this in content creating now where I think there's a lot of lies being said as well, because you'll see an Arsenal fan that will complain about the refs, and they get like, that's all you care about. You don't call your we have people this weekend. No one who comes on the terrace calls out anything that Arsenal do wrong. Like, well, you clearly don't watch our content because our panelists do multiple things. I think that's important. But at the same time, look, this summer, I understood why people said they needed another goal scorer. I honestly thought that Trossard would be better and more consistent this season. And I thought Martinelli would get back to what we saw 2 years ago from him as football fans. So I didn't see it as pressing an issue as other people did. And that's just the nature of football. It's turned out to be a bigger pressing matter than I thought it was. Some people got that one absolutely right. We spend too much time, though, nowadays. Oh, what did you get right? What did you get right? Oh, I got this right. I told you. Yeah, 2 seasons ago, when people like me were predicting they could get into a title race, no chance, squad ain't good enough, and they did. And again, great, I got that one right. So what? It's the way it is. And I think Arsenal, you are right. Now, with hindsight looking back, they absolutely should have bought different players in the summer, or the players they bought plus people on top. I think why now's important, though, is the season isn't over. They're in the Champions League. I think it's quite an open Champions League campaign with 2 teams that would have been put up as the number 1 and 2 favorites. One of them going out in this playoff round because they've got each other. And one of Madrid or City are going out, and neither have been that good this year. So I think it opens up the opportunity for everybody that's in it. And for Arsenal this January to not add a striker, to not add an attacker with the injuries, I think is very disrespectful to the manager, disrespectful to the players. And more so, I think it isn't fair on the fans. So I feel like there's an even bigger pressing matter this January than there was last year, because you've lost Saka, they've lost Gabriel Jesus, and there are players available. There are players that you can go and buy this January. I don't think it's as hard as some people are making out. It's difficult, but you pay the money.
But Terry, look at all the money that they've given Arteta, and look what he chooses to use it on. Like, that's his fault.
Well, then that's their fault for letting Arteta make those. Managers should not be given.
Even when you say that,
hang on.
What do you mean? You're wrong. Because
What do you mean? So, but Will, even if you're right, let's just say Will's right for a minute, and then I'll let you go. Right? Let's say you're right. Just because he's bought bad players in the past doesn't mean they shouldn't go out and buy better players now.
No, I'm not saying bad players. I'm just saying, right? Like, Arteta hasn't necessarily prioritized the attack, right? Like, he prioritizes the back line and the midfield more. So what I'm saying is, so like all the things that you guys are saying right now, it's an Arteta issue because he's the one that's neglected the attack since he's been here.
Okay, so then
that's wrong.
I'll come back to you in a second. Let's just say you're right though, and he has neglected it. Why does that negate my argument that Arsenal should have bought an attacker this January?
Because they probably don't trust him because he already spent 60-something million on Kai Havertz. So you spent 40-something million on Jesus.
Then what Will, you've highlighted the big problem.
Okay.
No, if what you're saying is true, and a gal's going to say it isn't true in a minute, and that's fine, but I want to stay on what you've said as a point rather than saying it's wrong. If they're giving a manager in 2024, 2025, this season, control over transfers, it ain't the 80s or the 90s. That's their big mistake. That's not Arteta's fault. They shouldn't be giving him that power. Managers in the modern day era are notoriously bad at signing players. There's a reason that when Klopp was signing his own players, they weren't buying players that were as good, or they were being misused within the squad, as great as he is. Pep doesn't do any of the recruitment at Man City, and he's a great head coach. They have a team that does it. They provide him a list. He might get a say, but they provide it. If it's true what you're saying, that Arsenal's board are letting him decide who to pick, in terms of they're not giving him a list saying it's got to be one of those 3 attackers. It's him saying it's got to be this guy. That's their big mistake. And until they change that, they'll foul, because I don't think the modern day coach is trained to spot and identify players, how scouts are, how managers were 20, 30, 40 years ago. I think football's evolved. So if you're right, it's a bigger problem for Arsenal than Mikel Arteta. It means they've given him too much power, and that's an issue. For me, anyway.
Yeah. So again, I just don't think that his talent ID is that good. Like, I don't believe that Arsenal wanted to go to Chelsea and sign Kai Havertz badly to where they spend 60 million plus euros on him, right? Gabriel Jesus from Manchester City, the guy couldn't even get in at striker even after Aguero left. They switched up their whole system. And then you go to them and then you spend 40-something million for him. So I just don't think.
Yeah, but look where Arsenal were at that point, Will. Like, Arsenal were at a point
but
where
what I'm
that
saying
felt
is
like
it's
a good
wasted
signing
money. Like, it's wasted money.
But is it wasted? Because
Jesus
and Zinchenko, right, were huge parts of Arsenal making the jump from where they were, transitioning to where they are now. Now, they've probably outgrown those 2 players quicker than they ever expected. So in terms of how much use they got out of them, it probably doesn't look like it was great value for money, but they got what they needed out of those players. All right, Jesus, they probably expected a little bit more, but injuries have kind of plagued his spell there. But in terms of Zinchenko, they jumped and left him pretty quickly. I don't know how much power Arteta has. I think he has a lot, but don't forget about Edu and the sporting director in this situation as well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing for me is I understand all the claims. And for me, if we're talking about this, what's the solution? The solution for Arsenal is not stop spending. It's spend. If you buy bad players, let's just put that out, or players aren't good enough, the only solution to fix that, and I know people say, coach, what's in your squad? No one does that. No big team has ever had a squad with 3 or 4 average players in that you need to improve on and just gone, we're going to coach these players until they're as good as Haaland. We're going to coach them until they're as good as Mo Salah. No one does it. There's a comment here that says, Terry, behave. Klopp signings have us at the top of the league table. Yes. Now that there has been subtle changes to the way you play and the control added by Slot, and Gravenberch's being used in a different way this year. So again, I'm not saying Klopp doesn't. Most players at the top end of the game are very good football players. That is why they're there. I'm saying Klopp, when it comes to identifying players, yes, they're talented, but he was using them in the wrong way. You've got to remember, he didn't want Mane and Salah. He wanted Julian Brand and somebody else. Might have been Mario Götze. That's who Klopp wanted over those 2. The point I'm saying is, and again, everyone always takes it fucking personally. It's frustrating. 99% of all top-level coaches in the modern-day game do not pick the players, per se. In Europe, they haven't done for a long time. The club president or the sporting directors have done it for generations. Typically speaking, that's how they operate. I don't understand, and I know you all can find exceptions where it doesn't happen, because I know they exist, but I don't understand why fans of English football are still pushing back against this. It's the way it is. So yes, if you give a modern day young coach full control over transfers, it's his way or the highway, you are setting yourself up for failure, because they're not trained to manage football clubs the way they used to be. They're just really not. It's just crazy that people still
I'm
think
just going to say this to Brand, not to Will. Will, it's not about talent ID. We just can't pull every single player we want. That's the honest truth. Be it due to financial, be it due to that player wanting to go somewhere else, or be it due to the situation we find ourselves in, or just not being able to pull the trigger on a deal because we don't see the value in that deal at that moment in time. Let me give you some examples. Isak. We wanted Isak. We didn't deem the value of his deal in 22 summer. The same thing happened with Bruno Guimaraes the year we were challenging for top 4. Rafinha, he did not want to go to us. He wanted to go to Barcelona over us. Fair play. Vlahovic wanted to go to Juventus over us. Fair play. These are all players Arteta wanted. Now, if you want to talk about strikers specifically, he wanted Sesko in the summer. The mistake he made was he did not give Sesko, he did not tell Sesko what he wanted to hear. He told him things like, you know what? We're not 100% sure where we're going to play you. We might play you out left sometimes. You're going to have to earn your place. And the guy's like, you know what? For my own development, I'm going to stay. Overall, Arteta has never said he doesn't want a striker. The issue we found ourselves in, we probably had to sell one of what do you call it, Jesus or one of our forwards in order to fund bringing somebody else in going into the season. And maybe they thought they had enough going into the season because of what Havertz did on the back end of last year. But they have been looking for a forward. They have been looking for forward players. And the reason why we signed so many defenders and midfielders, did you see the state of our defensive midfield before? It was terrible. We needed that. And that's why we have a bedrock of a good team to be pushing for these league titles and challenging in the first place because of those signings. So his talent ID, I would say, is quite good compared to the misses where you see from other clubs across the board.
I hear that, guys. I want to go to this super chat before I talk about the Arsenal City. Before we talk about the Arsenal City game, a few comments here. First one says Chelsea were charged for surrounding the ref at Ipswich. Yes, they were. City were charged for surrounding the ref at after that Spurs game last season, and yes, they are.
I don't think they were.
Well, I've seen some community notes come up on some pictures of City surrounding refs, and they were. And of course, every club has been charged at some point for surrounding the referee. But that's a by the by, because most of our clubs surround a referee every game, and we're not charged every game. So this is the point that's being made here. If you're going to start doing it, you have to do it every time. It can't be sporadic. That is what people are challenging. So yes, we can all find an example. Oh, I remember when we did get charged. Yeah, but you guarantee you, every single one of our clubs, a player or two shout at a referee this weekend.
Terry, do you know where the line is drawn? Like, do you know where it goes from, like just approaching the referee when you shouldn't to failing control players? Do you know where the line is drawn?
I don't.
They get the decision wrong.
Yeah, well, I don't, and they never specify because
that's what I mean.
Because if they specify, then they can be held to again. Like I keep saying,
it becomes factual then, doesn't it? If they specify the areas.
People love it's subjectivity, Terry. Not over time. If you set a line and you show the clear examples of what is and isn't acceptable, it becomes far more objective. But they like it to remain as subjective as possible. That way they can wiggle out of their own mistakes. The fact that every football fan isn't jumping on this is crazy. And the only time they do is when it hurts their team. When it's a rival, they want to live in the tribalistic world. And I've said it for years. Whenever we get tribalistic on this, we continue to see poor decision-making in our game. Arsenal fans, though, specifically on Arsenal, need to drop this "it's only us" issue, because that makes more rivals be tribalistic against you. You've got to make this a generic issue and not solely about one club. And until we do that collectively as football fans and we become grown-ups and have grown-up conversations, we're never going to get these entities held to account. They are making horrendous decisions on such an inconsistent decisions on such a regular basis. It's a pandemic almost. It really, really is. And with VAR, shouldn't be happening. Like with VAR, it was meant to stop and it's got worse. Duran has gone to Saudi, confirmed. Thank you, AMT. It might work, for example, Spanish ref exchange. It is reported that La Liga want to bring the English refs over because they've got problems. But yeah, that'd be crazy. That'd be crazy. So maybe no biasness. I think there's I schooled Gary Neville yesterday. I think there's biases in the game because all the ex-referees admit there was, and it's there. And then they pretend like they haven't said it. No, there's no biases from refs. They're 100% professional. But you've all told us you had biases. It's a weird. That's why I'm skeptical about this. Gary Neville sits on in front of 1 million people watching, going, I don't understand. Michael Oliver is 100% professional, best ref in the league. There's no way he would be swayed in either direction. Gary Neville, a couple of months earlier, I sat with Graham Poll once, and he told me that he used to bring previous issues and stick into games, and he would give decisions in the opposite direction. And then he's sitting again, referees don't do that. That's my problem with all of this. There's something fishy going on. We're not
David
stupid.
Coop proved it the other week.
Yeah, exactly.
He literally did.
Exactly. Trossard should have gotten referees had a spat. I think Graham Poll called out Mark Clattenburg, and then Clattenburg clapped back, saying, but you used to have biases as well. And they were like calling each other out. It's about 5 years ago about the biases they have. And I think Clattenburg was well renowned for, even if it was the crowd that were giving him crap, he'd go, right. Basically, he admitted this. I would know at some point I was going to get them back by giving a bad decision. The fact that we know this anecdotally went on, the idea that when we call out these problems, we get told we're mental. It's like, no, they've admitted they do it. It's very strange.
You know, Terry, it's easy to hide behind conspiracy theories. That's what
you say conspiracy theory, and everyone thinks you're a kook, and we're not being kooks. We're just asking for honesty here and genuine. And do you know what happened? If real honest conversations happened that didn't turn into Liverpool fans just want to be victims, Arsenal fans just want to moan, hold your club accountable. And if those conversations disappeared, and we spoke about incidents and people were honest about them, a lot of the frustration would go away. It's that it gets shut. When I remember everyone giving Chelsea shit when Cucurella had his hair pulled and the penalty wasn't given. And Chelsea just chatting. And I was sitting there going, I can't believe people are attacking Chelsea fans for complaining about it. It was crazy. It's crazy to me. Trossard should have got a yellow regardless. Challenge on Bernardo Silva's knees on his back is always a yellow card. Look at the clip. Thank you, bro.
They didn't give him the yellow for that. If they did, I wouldn't complain.
I thought one tie was a lot to keep up with. Now everyone is tie. I wish this didn't happen to watch the natural annual collapse of Arsenal. Look, I know you're being funny with your super chat and you're having a bit of a joke, but let's not be real. If you watch our match reactions, even a gal that's probably the most vehement sort of when it comes to pushing back against the PGMOL this season on 100 different occasions has criticized his players, his manager, substitutions, transfers. So it's just not true to say that anyone on the football terrace only talks refs. If you say that, then you're lying. If you're lying, you've already lost the debate. Can easily make a case that Liverpool or others get points too. I don't know what's in relation to.
Igal was explaining about certain decisions have gone against Arsenal.
You missed it. I basically broke down that I feel like there's been at least 6 or 7. What was it? What did you say, Dan? 7 or 9 points.
You're muted, Dan.
7 to 9 points you could have had, and Liverpool could have lost 3.
This season. Yeah, I mean, and it happens. And look, City, I mean, last season with Liverpool was an example that, should have gone 1 up against Tottenham. And all I can say is I called that out with as much vim and as much energy as I have the stuff for Arsenal. I stuck up for Wolves last year. Everybody seems to forget that when they conceded 2 penalties 2 weeks running for opponents kicking the floor first.
Do you remember Forest hired Clattenburg? They hired Clattenburg.
Yeah,
because they felt like they're being harshly treated as well.
Yeah, and the media hated that as well. They were like, that's crazy. It's like,
they got rid of him in like a month, didn't they?
But it was like that was really smart. You get an ex-referee that can help be a conduit between the two groups, so that everyone understands things more. The media hated that.
Gary Neville called for the CEO of Nottingham Forest to be sacked for his involvement in the referees.
It's very strange.
Very.
The 2-2 Milner foul on Bernardo Silva never got a yellow. Milner foul on Foden never got a pen. The Dele Alli tackle on KDB almost broke his leg, never got a red. And by the way, I stand by City fans on this. People say nothing goes against them. Last season, they had a goal disallowed for a little nudge in the back on the goalkeeper that wasn't one, that was a lot softer than the week before, where Arsenal conceded a goal for a push in the back. And I called that out as well. There was also a challenge. I don't remember the Wolves player who should have got a second yellow against City. They went on to lose that game last season. I also called that out as well. So I am as consistent as I can be on this. But every time I do it, there'll be a fan base that hates that I'm calling it out. Every time, no matter which team it is, a different group get angry, and it's hard with toasted people. Not even close to right. Arteta has asked for many attackers, but the club hasn't paid the money. Isak to Spain, Nico, Sesko, Mudryk, etc. Oh, wait, in Spain, it means yeah. Remember, during prime Wenger years, it was David Dean who was very integral to the signings. Absolutely. He wanted Kudus and Rafinha as well. Owner's fault is what Gunnar Carlos says. Saliba lost 1 Premier League game to injury. Get the violin out. That's what Liverpool fan says here. But they've had other injuries, Arsenal, haven't they?
Liverpool have had the second least injuries in the league this season after Nottingham Forest. So you guys have been very fortunate. So all this stuff about I'm done.
I hear you, sorry, I hear you, bro. I hear you. Love the times when Igal demanded PGMOL for Arsenal to be relinquished the Arteta FA Cup to Chelsea because Taylor stole it by sending Kovacic off.
Yeah, you know what? You guys were unlucky that game. Also, you had one of your best players pull up for a hamstring on a goal scoring opportunity. If he scores that goal and he doesn't pull up with a hamstring, maybe it's a different game.
Pulisic was absolutely flying that game.
Yeah, can I ask a question about that? Was that a second yellow?
Which one? The Kovacic one.
Kovacic red card. Was it a second yellow?
Yeah, I think so.
See, that's where, listen, it was a wrong decision, and we called it out at the time on the show. But that's where I don't have the same energy because VAR hasn't got a protocol to stop that. And that's where for me I get more frustrated. It's when if a decision is given in real time that can't be over. So if a corner goes against you that shouldn't have been, there's no protocol for VAR to check it. That's a human error. I can accept it. But it's when VAR can check the decision. We saw it with Bruno this year against Tottenham.
That was pre-VAR, Terry.
No, that couldn't have been pre-VAR.
It was 2020, no?
Yeah, VAR was in then. VAR was in before lockdown happened. 100%. So the thing is that the red card Bruno got against Spurs, the reason why that annoyed me the most is we all saw the replay, and I guarantee everyone went, oh, that'll get overturned. Because we saw it wasn't a red, and they stood by it. That's where the problem comes in as well. Sorry, what I meant is exchange of refs might not be have any biases. Well, yeah, I think that's true. I think maybe using refs that are not from the UK and then rotating them around Europe every sort of few years would make a lot of sense. Arsenal fans are claiming it's Michael Oliver specifically down to not sending off Kovacic. Why do we think Coote versus Klopp is isolated?
It's not.
Great point.
Terry, while you're gone, we were saying I do believe referees have biases, and I think you could just look at the decisions that happened in the past.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Moving on from the referee conversation, big game this weekend for Arsenal. They play Man City. How do you see this one going, Will? At the Emirates Stadium, I believe, as well.
Yeah, the Emirates. Damn, it's crazy because I am leaning towards Man City to win because of what they have up top and what Arsenal don't have up top. So I think I will be leaning City, but I can definitely see Arsenal getting something from this game because City's midfield and defense is just so open. And I think Arsenal can definitely win that midfield battle. Like, City's midfield is super weak, right? I think like Arsenal, they have the physical midfielders and their back line is a lot better than Man City's is. It's just, I just see it being a game where we see Man City dominate possession. I think Man City are going to have more chances. I think Arsenal are going to sit back and they're going to look to hit them on the counter. But it's just a matter of if City are going to be clinical, right? Like if Haaland is going to be able to show up in a big game like this, or if, maybe like Marmoush or, Phil Foden, who looks like he's coming back into some good form as well. So I think if I had to put money on it, I would lean Man City, but I think it's going to be a very close game. Like, I don't think that they're going to just like go there and just like smash up Arsenal or anything like that. I think it'll probably be like a 2-1, 1-0 kind of game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be very close again. It's not a massively high scoring game, is it? Other than that one at the Etihad a few years ago. It's always a 1-1 or a 1-0 or a 2-1. I think Arsenal will win it. I think it'll be very close, and I think they'll win it on set pieces. And at this point, Arsenal just have to win the game. Liverpool will be sitting there praying for a draw. If Liverpool go and get something against... Actually saying that, Bournemouth away, the way they're playing, is not an easy game. Bournemouth are scoring goals. If Arsenal can, come out of a win and Bournemouth get a result there and Liverpool drop points. But yeah, in terms of this game, I think Arsenal will win. I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal, but it'll be very close. Could go either way, like flip a coin sort of thing for me.
Dan, you want to go before me?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident for Arsenal to go and win this, to be honest with you. I think that your record at home speaks for itself. I think you're very strong at the Emirates. I think Manchester City have been good. I think Manchester City had a number of opportunities against Chelsea to score loads of goals. I don't believe those opportunities will be there for City. I think City will struggle with Arsenal's set pieces. But I think Arsenal know what they have to do to keep themselves in this race and just ultimately keep the pressure on Liverpool. I think they probably would have learnt from last season against smaller teams how important it was to just keep the concentration there and continuously keep getting points wherever you can. And I think this is a big opportunity for Arsenal to do it. I think there's a gap between you and City at the moment. And I absolutely see you probably, I don't know, Agal, how you feel Arteta will set up, but I feel like you will try to control the game and ultimately just try to dominate City and try and suffocate them with the ball and hope that you can win set pieces and score from those and potentially nick a goal in open play.
I don't think we want to get into a shootout with Man City. We're going to want to keep it close, and that is the number one thing. As we haven't been scoring too many goals recently because of Bukayo Saka and some of the injuries in our forward line. So Man City have also been very vulnerable defensively. They still play a high line. Their players, the young center back that they recently signed is a little bit error prone based on him not knowing the system, not playing with his teammates much. So there is vulnerabilities in that defense we can get at. And maybe, guys, let's be honest, playing Man City at home, we might have more opportunities at goal and more chances to score than we would versus Manchester United, Newcastle, and some of these other teams, as they're going to play a lot more forward thinking, more attacking. So I do have confidence in my team going into this game. The game plan is going to be, as you guys said, set pieces, nick a goal, but I do think there is going to be moments where we outplay them. Ethan Nwaneri being on the pitch gives me a lot more confidence on the right-hand side, giving us more balance, giving us another player who can also tuck into the midfield, control the game, and the attack. The attack is showing promising signs with Ethan on the pitch. So I'm going to go with an Arsenal win. As always, I'm going to go a narrow win. I do think they catch us out at some point, but we're going to get a 2-1 victory, and it's going to be a situation where you see some of these guys step up defensively, like Saliba and Gabriel always seem to step up versus Erling Haaland. And don't forget, last time, what did they say? Stay humble. Right, so they're coming to our
you
ground.
You won't sit back at home either, Agal, will you?
Yeah. We're gonna make sure that Erling Haaland and these boys that told us to stay humble are gonna be humbled on Sunday. That's the game. That's the main goal. And we're trying to get into that game, make sure they don't have a sniff at our goal, catch them on the break, maybe one or two, and then try to shut up shop from there and see out the game. And that's where things change. Because if they have to come on to us after we score a goal or two, it's a different ball game, because I know we can catch them out. Even though we're offensively we're not good, but when we face the bigger teams, there's a lot more space to attack. So
can I ask the panel and obviously get a few opinions in the chat? If Man City go to the Emirates and beat Arsenal in the position City have been in very up and down, would you guys think that'd be a massive turning point that they can actually go on and do something this season? Because it'd only be 3 points away from Arsenal if they win.
Who, City? What, to basically go
put
themselves back in with a chance at the title?
Win say 2-0 at the Emirates.
Well, I don't think
they're 6 points behind us, and they're 12 points behind Liverpool.
Yeah, but they'd only be 3 behind you if they win.
I know, but they're 12 points behind Liverpool right now.
Yeah, like I don't think City could win the league. I think like that's over. But I can see City going on a run and coming second, if that's what you mean, Henry. Or were you talking about them going on to
do an old City run?
Okay, yeah. So I can see a run, but I think it does depend on what else they do this month, because I like the Mamouche signing. I do like those two young defenders, but I still think that they need to address that midfield. Like that.
They're bidding today, Will, for a guy from Porto.
Say it again.
They've bid for a guy from Porto today.
Well, then if they bring in
a
solid defensive, physical presence in that midfield, then yes, I think that they can go on a run and possibly come second.
Nico Gonzalez from Porto, if anyone knows him, release clause is 60 million.
Wait, who?
Manchester City have made formal approach with Porto to ask for Nico Gonzalez as new midfielder.
I've never heard of
€60 million. Do you guys know Man City's upcoming games? They have a gauntlet.
They've got a really tough run.
They got a gauntlet. They face Arsenal at the Emirates, then they face Real Madrid at home, Newcastle at home, Real Madrid away, Liverpool at home, then Tottenham away. By the time
do you think a win at the Emirates could start something?
No, I don't think a win. I think a win is too simplistic. A convincing performance where their midfield can dominate a game and not be run through. It's the performances we have to assess here, and not the victory per se. Because if you even look at, they've been on a good run in terms of results in the last month or so. But if you actually go down and if you go from Boxing Day until now, I think they've lost one game, as an example, maybe two, maybe just one game. I'm going to try and get up their fixtures in front of me right now.
It's just PSG, wasn't it?
Yeah, so they lost that PSG game. So if you go to Boxing Day until that PSG, they've lost one game since then. Sounds good. But Everton went to the Emirates went to the Etihad and had loads of great chances. They beat Leicester 2-0, but Leicester really should have scored 3 or 4 goals in that game. West Ham could have been 3-0 up before City started scoring, as an example. They cut through them. Salford, it's Salford, right? They're a lower-level team. Brentford, they threw away a 2-0 lead and drew 2-2. They smashed Ipswich. That was a really good performance. Paris Saint-Germain 2-0 up. Didn't lose. They were 2-0 up and lost 4-2. Chelsea had the worst tactics I've ever seen By the way, whose dog's barking? Whose dog's barking?
That might be my neighbors.
Yeah. Cheers, mate. Thank you. I just said, you still hear a
I
dog.
was gonna say, what the hell?
I thought it was mine, and then I turned my mic off, and I couldn't hear nothing in here. Yeah. So they were leading. Chelsea were 1-0 up, should have gone 2-0 up, and then Chelsea sat back and essentially let them off the hook. And Club Brugge could have scored more goals. So I'm taking nothing away from the victories, but the performances. You look at the teams they played. They're nicked some wins, and they've been lucky in a few games. As an example, this run, it's got to be. They're not going to beat Arsenal, Madrid, Newcastle, Liverpool, Tottenham away. By the way, the game after that, you left out, is away to Nottingham Forest. They're not going to beat those teams if they're getting opened up and run through in those, like the other matches. They will be lucky to win more than two of them.
But excluding the Champions League playoff, right? Let's just talk about just the Premier League. I think they maybe only lose one of those games.
Bro, do you not know Spurs is their bogey team?
Yeah, but I've also been just seeing Tottenham this season. I know that they beat them 4-0 earlier, but
yeah, I agree. Will, I agree with you if their midfield controls the games and they're not being run through. But if Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Forest, right, and some of them are really good on the counter, get to run through them like Paris Saint-Germain did, like Chelsea did early and then stopped, like we saw Club Brugge do, like we saw Brentford do, like we saw Leicester do, like Everton did. If they don't stop that, they're definitely not going to win the majority of those games or go unbeaten in that run by one match. If they can stop the opportunities against them, of course, because they've got brilliant attackers. So for me, you're only right if their midfield stops leaking like a broken fridge.
Well, what makes you confident that not Man City can come to the Emirates and win? What makes you confident about that?
Their squad. Again, the midfield is just the only issue, which is a big part because that's usually where games are won and lost.
Defense is also an issue.
Yeah, but but at the same time, I feel like it's more so the midfield, which leads to the defense making mistakes because of how easily teams run through their midfield. So the reason why I have faith in Man City is because of their attack. I just believe that even though their defense and midfield is leaky, they have the attack to be able to keep them in games and to have them win it. Like you have Haaland up front. You just brought in Marmoush, who's looked good so far since he signed for them. And then again, I don't believe, and it's like what Dan said, they're about to sign somebody else. I just don't believe that their January business is over. So I think by the time that these games come up that we're talking about, I just am putting the faith because I think that City just have credit in the bank. So
you ever know though, if they go and sign a really good midfielder and he starts playing and they start controlling the midfields, my mind will change. But I can't predict the outcome of games based on players that haven't been signed yet.
No, but I'm saying I just think even if they don't sign another midfielder, I still can see them going on a run because of the attack that they have. Like I think they can keep themselves in situations because of their attack.
And by the way, I understand that. I want to go to some of the viewers' comments here, Gal. One second, my friend. This here says they are signing midfielders. Terry, stop this bullshit. What's that got to do with what I said? What did I say specifically? If their midfield stops leaking these chances, they can win a lot of these games. If their midfield keeps leaking these chances, I don't think they will win a lot of these games. If you can tell me what is wrong with what I said, let me know. This is a weird one. Maybe you guys get this. So Terry thinks 3-1 is worse than 6-0 in terms of system.
What does
that mean?
Tower. I'm not even sorry. I can't pronounce the name, but I don't know what this comment means.
Yeah, I'm not
Howard
sure.
Thanks, Dan.
I don't get it. Just really crazy is I'm not. Listen, City are a brilliant team. I think they've bought very well this window. They're going to be back next year. There's no doubt about it. But their performances haven't been overly convincing. And it's funny how whenever we talk about any other team, the results almost go out the window. We speak performance. But with City, no, they will turn it around. Why? Because they're City. They've signed players. Well, this is what's interesting. Normally, most of City signings, when you speak to City fans, take a year to get up to level with what Pep wants, fitness, understanding the league, etc. Suddenly, we're just going to I'm not going to ignore what City fans have told me about their club for 8 years when assessing these signings. once I see these signings play for 3, 4, 5, 6 games, my opinion may change. Now, some of you clever clogs might go, but I said it would get better from the start. You're guessing. You are throwing shit and hoping it sticks. You're guessing. You don't know what you don't know. And I don't care. Most of you weren't watching Omar Mamouche regularly, but some of you may have been. You, man, weren't out here watching that defender. Nova. Nobody was watching him and talking about him as an example. The young lad Reece from Palmeiras, none of you would know who he is or how good or bad he is. The same as Man United with the players we're linked to. I've said I'm excited to see them, but I'm making any expectations for Patrick Dorgu. I've never watched him play enough. So that's the frustrating bit for me. And we've just mentioned a midfielder that they might be signing. And the panel went, who? But yet them signing it means they're going to be better. They might be.
But it's credit in the bank, Terry. Why are you acting like credit in the bank does not mean anything? That's like if a player that you really rate highly has like a run of 5 games where they're trash. Of course, you'll still back him to turn it around versus another player to turn it around.
You're talking about... I'm going to go 1 second. You're talking about a player that you know can do it. So if Haaland goes on a dry run, I won't change my mind on him being one of the greatest finishers that we've ever seen in the Prem.
Okay.
But if you're going to go on track record, the last group of players, the last 3 or 4 signings that have meant to go into the midfield to help City have been trash, according to their fans.
No, but I was talking about the team just in general, of them just turning it around. Period.
But the team has become trash. When City fans have been on our shows, they've said we've turned to trash. Some players have aged out. Some players are not hungry anymore, and they think their signings have been poor. So therefore, they've signed new players to improve the team, which you have to do. I'm waiting to see how good those players are before I say they're going to go on a mad run now. There's no credit in the bank with this group of players this season because we don't know these players playing with the 4 or 5 players coming in this month. We have no idea how good they are at gelling with the current City team who are on one of the worst runs of form of a defending champion in the history of the Premier League. Do I think they're going to make the top 4? Yes. Do I still think they're a dangerous team? Yes. Will they still win a lot of matches? Absolutely. But looking at Arsenal away, Newcastle, Liverpool game, away to Tottenham, away to Nottingham Forest, I'm not looking at that without watching these new players play and saying, yeah, I think they're only going to lose like one of those matches. I can't see how anybody just believes that just because City were amazing a couple of years ago. City fans have been telling us the majority of the season, we've got massive problems. The squads, the midfield's too weak, the team's too tired. The defenders are all over the place. They've gone and signed 2 young fledgling defenders. We have no idea if they're going to make them better. By the debut of the lad the other day, it might make them worse in the short term. I'm not understanding this logic of, yeah, bought some players, it's all fixed. It might be, but anyone who's saying it is just guessing so that they can get it right. If they're right, they can go, my ball knowledge is better. No, you're guessing. You're absolutely guessing. It's just glazing. This is, hang on, we've got some history here. We've got some history, I think. Terry is right. Maradon the moron has said I'm right. It's the first time in 7 years he has ever said I'm right on an opinion. Terry is right on this one. Everyone glazing Mamouche. The funny thing is I really rate Mamouche. I think he's brilliant. So I praise that side in, but there we go.
Terry,
never seen or heard of him before now.
Have you seen, sorry, there's breaking news that Tottenham have got an agreement in place with AC Milan for Tomori for a fee of 25 million euros. Wait for it. It's now up to the player's decision.
Is Levy's jet diverting? It's going
DiMarzio, Paul O'Keefe, and Andy Gold.
Wait, so Henry, why do you guys not talk to the players first to find out if they're interested before you go through the trouble of negotiating with the club?
Because that's probably what a proper football club would do. Will. That's what a proper football club would agree personal terms to the player through the agent. Then the player makes noise. Then the club approach the other club and say, we would like to sign some more. We don't. We just go right to the director of football, make noise, and then go to the player. I tell you what, I will smash this office up if Tomori rejects us.
Yeah, but Henry, that's
this
what it
chairs
used
going
to
out
be
the window.
like, by the way. When like Fergie and like old school managers were in charge, that's what it used to be like, because the gentleman's way of doing it was to approach the club first, because the club had
Yeah, but we're not
full
in
control of the
the
player.
late 90s.
No, I know, but I
anymore, are
think
we?
Daniel Levy is probably still running on a method that was
guys,
used like 15 years ago, 20 years
no,
ago.
I hear that. There's some more breaking news as well, and I want to ask a question here. I know that Villa have rejected the bid for Ollie Watkins, and I know the manager has said the player wants to stay. There's a credible report that has just come out in the Guardian that states, along with Wayne Rooney, I saw a picture of Wayne Rooney when I was talking. Sorry, along with Marcus Rashford, Villa are weighing up a last-minute move for Cunha. So, as well as if they were to get it lined up that Cunha, and I know it isn't as good maybe, but if they could get Rashford and Cunha in, do you think there's a possibility that Arsenal could come in with a £60 million bid and get Ollie Watkins?
No,
No,
because you got to remember though, right? Villa finished in the top 8 in the Champions League, right? They've just lost some firepower off the bench. I don't think they're going to be interested in selling during the middle of the season. Like, I honestly do think that they're going to try and just strengthen their squad right now. And then I can see Ollie Watkins going in the summer. But I think the middle of the season, why would Villa sell right now? They don't have to. They just made a lot of money. They're going to make.
I think Terry, Ollie Watkins is going to have to push for the move. He's gonna have to say, I'm an Arsenal fan.
He's already publicly
Arsenal
said
fans. This is my opportunity to get a big move.
No, I
push for the move in the middle of the season when they just made top 8 in the Champions League.
Yeah,
that's like a weird time.
It's different. Ollie Watkins wants to go. If Ollie Watkins wants to leave Arsenal,
Gal's right in the sense of, if he wants to get the move, Ollie Watkins, he's gonna have to force it, and that's the only way it will happen, is if the player privately kicks up a stink and forces his way out. So you're right logically, Gal, but I get where you're coming from, Will. I don't personally see it happening. I'm asking the question, but I don't personally see it happening. Although I don't know if they get Rashford and they sign Cunha. I mean, I'm not saying that they've got too many players.
Why do you think Villa are scared to sell? What can we just level that one out first? Because that baffles me. Because they've literally just sold Duran for 80 million in January. So it shows that they're happy to sell one of their better assets in January. They're not bothered about
Duran
that.
Was a backup,
if the money's right, they'll sell it.
But they needed to for FFP, Dan, apparently.
Yeah, I know, Gal, but so they're still going to be in a position where they could sell again and then bring in Rashford on loan, and potentially if they do go and get Cunha, they get Cunha, who they probably believe those two plus Marlon is enough to potentially carry them throughout the rest of the Premier League season.
Well, yeah, I forgot they got
into European football. Probably do okay in the Champions League.
Wait, but you guys seriously think Aston Villa, for the first time in a very long time, are in the Champions League? They are in the round of 16, and you think they're going to just sell their star striker?
They just sold. They just sold.
But
John Duran
more of
for
Ollie Watkins
70 million, 80 million.
1 second. Will, it's about the player. If the player wants to leave, Aston Villa are in a situation where they have to decide: do they keep a player who's 29 years old that they can get 60 million for and replace him right now in the short term, or do they keep him and just say, you know what, let's continue to bring more players on top of that?
The thing is, we're seeing two examples that are both logical. If the player is forcing the move, then absolutely I see Villa taking the money. Only if, though, Villa can get a good enough replacement. And
he's an Arsenal fan, though, isn't he, as well?
He is an Arsenal fan. So this is what you got to weigh up. Now, I know a lot of people hate Rashford, don't like him. But they may look at it and go, we think a rejuvenated Rashford could score more goals for us between now and the end of the season than Duran did. They may look at Mathys Cunha and say, look how brilliant he's been in a crap Wolves team. We think he can come in and replace, goals as well. It's plausible. I don't think it will happen, though. Logically, both things make sense, but it's just interesting that they're looking at there's separate reports. They're looking at João Felix, they're looking at Cunha, they're looking at Marcus Rashford. If they land two of the, if in the next 24 hours you see that two of those deals are really close to happening, would I be shocked and go, I can't believe it? Arsenal have bid 60 million for Watkins and it's been accepted. I don't think I'd hit the ground and go, I can't believe it. This is the most amazing, most shocking news ever. I don't personally think it will happen. But again, I wouldn't be shocked. And the reason I wouldn't be shocked is the there's just something about, again, a lot of people think Arsenal did that bid for PR. I understand the rationale, the logic holds water. I think it's a little bit more incompetence. I think they should have done it a little bit earlier in the window, personally, at the same time. Also, though, sometimes when you leave it late and then a player kicks up a stink, it can actually force things through faster. It makes it an easier way to negotiate. I've seen those transfers before. But yeah, it's an interesting one that Villa are suddenly looking at all these different attackers. And they're talking about bringing in 2. And they already signed, what's his name as well, didn't they? Marlon from
Dortmund.
So, I mean, that would be 3 new attackers with 1 leaving. And maybe
they're still linked with Tel as well. They're still linked with Tel.
Yeah, linked with Tel as well. Again, they're looking at Tel, Rashford, Cunha. Maybe they're just looking for 1. And maybe if they land one of those, they say, that's it, we're done. And that would make sense. But that's not what the reports are saying when you read them through. They're looking at multiple. So I'm just interested. Maybe they want extra. Maybe they think we want to just kick Leon Bailey to the side, as an example. Maybe they want to improve multiple positions to try and win the Champions League. And that also holds water. But it's why it's worth a conversation.
Do you honestly think Ollie Watkins will go, Terry?
No, my gut feeling says no. On a me being subjective, no. Objectively, I can see rationale as to how and why, because it's the transfer window and every player is always for sale at the right price. Every player is always for sale at the right price. So I can't have that as a baseline thought and then say it's impossible, but I think very unlikely at this stage. Maradon says, Terry, it was sort of idiocy and PR from Arsenal. That stupidity. The reason this is why I don't think it's PR. If you're going to do a PR bid, someone super chatted this earlier. I'm stealing. I can't remember which person it was, but I'm stealing it. If you're going to do a PR bid, you bid 95, 100 million for Isak and get told no. You don't drop 60 million on Watkins, who I'd say 40% of the Arsenal fan base don't even think that is that good. So it's almost, so if you're going to do it for PR, do you not go for an even better player because you know you're not going to get him? Maybe.
And what if Duran's move?
You think the Caicedo bid back then was PR when we got Jorginho?
No.
But the Ollie Watkins one could be PR because you have to know that you submitting a bid a few hours before they play their Champions League game.
No, apparently that
the bid was on Monday.
It was on Monday. It was on Monday.
It was on Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
But if Duran hadn't been going, which they might not have known about Arsenal when they submitted that bid, and Villa had said yes, then what do Arsenal do if it's PR? I don't believe to submit an official bid, it can be PR. I just don't.
You're going down that Ellie Aluko route, when she was like, you get another club to put a fake bid in for you to help make so that one manager rings another. What was it she said? She basically said Arteta will ring his friend Pep, and get City to put in £100 million bid so that the Arsenal board sanction an even bigger bid from them. And maybe that happens at certain levels of the game. I just don't believe that happens at the highest level of men's football, personally. So that's essentially what people are saying Arsenal did here. They bid. What if it was accepted? They just walk away from it. They'd never be able to leave that down.
That the PR means that they don't want the player, but I think that it's PR in terms of, well, look, we tried to get a striker, so we couldn't get one. But if they would accept it, then I think Arsenal do want him. But I just think it's the PR factor of how late you left it. And then if you are told, no, we're not going to sell the player, then you could still say, look, we tried.
This is the thing with January window is notorious for leaving deals late. Like Newcastle submitted a £60 million offer apparently for Mbeumo today out of nowhere this late in the window.
What?
Yeah. Like it's the January transfer window. Clubs love to panic in January because they start seeing teams around them strengthening and they think, we might miss out on a place there.
But like clubs that aren't serious like to leave it late. Like Man City didn't leave it late. Like they immediately corrected whatever they.
I think Man City's situation
you say that though. But you say that Man City fans up until today, because they're now linked to this Gonzalez, they've been saying great, but why haven't you addressed the biggest problem, which is the midfield?
No, but at least they've signed 3 players and they're still working on getting more in.
And I do understand that, but this is where sometimes. And it's hard when it comes to Arsenal because people want to shit on them so much. But Arsenal are not the only club that leave it late in January windows. It's notorious and regular. And Newcastle are a club that everyone says has ambitious owners, well-run club with what they're trying to do, and they've left it late. And I don't necessarily think it's always a panic. when you listen to agents talk, when you listen to people that have discussed this, sometimes the easiest way to get a deal through is to make it very last minute, because it makes everything. You ever watch the film? And I've told this is based on real things that have happened. Draft Day. You ever watch Draft Day with Kevin Costner?
Yeah, it's a good show.
And it's like sometimes the best time to do a trade is when someone's on the clock during the drafts, because they've, we've got to make a decision really quickly. Oh, that's a good offer. That makes sense. And this is sometimes what I think happens behind this. Why I love the transfer window. I'm not too sure why people hate it so much. This is, even if they don't happen, it's just amazing. You know, Daniel Levy today flying across Europe to get a deal done and being told no. Forget the banter. It's just amazing. And maybe it's because I was a salesman at heart.
Yeah, you got this billionaire like flying across Europe to just try and make something
as a
happen.
salesman, I liked it when we landed deals. It was great. You get your bonus, you go out and celebrate. Brilliant. But it was the thrill of the chase that I liked more than actually landing a deal. Yeah. Doing all the work. It was, and maybe that's why I like the transfer window so much, because it's just fun. It's like a separate. I look at the transfer window. It's like the Vatican within Rome, within Italy. It's like a little separate country in itself. Let's do some super chats here.
I was just going to say this quickly.
Go on, mate.
I don't think it's PR. I think it's just poor preparation.
Well, I think it's more like. And the irony is this: I get, Terry, you're an Arsenal simp. I'm like, so I'm saying I think Arsenal have been incompetent over doing a stupid PR stunt. Being called incompetent is worse. Yet you think it's like, I don't understand people's level of what they think an insult is. City isn't coming to the Emirates and winning. City will lose to Liverpool, Arsenal. First game at Madrid. Stop this big club bias. Will look at the UCL table places. Is what.
Well,
Robert
I hope
said
that they lose, like in the playoffs. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah. I hope, by the way, I hope they lose all the. I hope they win all. I hope they lose all the games in the Prem you mentioned, and I hope the two games they win are against you bums, because you deserve it for twerking for City. I'm joking. Arsenal better defense and midfield can counter the Man City attack to Wright.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Will, you're saying their attack can save them? The battle is going to be in the midfield and the defense. Erling Haaland notoriously has only scored in one game versus Arsenal since he's faced Gabriel and Saliba together.
Don't say it. Don't say anything.
Do you know where's a massive area?
No, I'm just stating a stat.
I know.
Miguel, I don't know what you think of this, right, and what the panel think as well, but I feel like Núñez at right back didn't get focused enough on by Chelsea, and especially with Kusanov playing alongside him. I feel like Chelsea really didn't do enough there, and I feel like that left-hand side, if you play Calafiori, probably Rice, Martinelli, I feel like you're really going to go for that side of the pitch for City. I feel like Chelsea really didn't do enough there for what that lacks defensively.
Don't forget, we set up really well. We set up really well against the top 6 teams. We might play poor against some of the teams in relegation battles because they set up really well defensively against us. But against the top 6, we've been quite decent this season.
Except the FA Cup.
What?
Except the FA Cup.
Yeah, you know what? Those you have your off days.
That's the thing. If Man City defend like Man United did,
that's the most honest answer I've ever heard from you, by the way. Like the most humble answer. Yeah, you have your off days. Like, sure. Fair play.
Igao is upset because this season Arsenal is going through what Liverpool went through last year: injuries, red cards, and decisions. Last year, he said, no excuses.
To be fair, you guys were 5 points ahead at this point of the season last year, and you're going through that, and you fell off, and you went 14-point swing, went 7 points behind us. So
there we go. Score predictions for the game. What are you going with, Will, for the big one, City versus Arsenal?
2-1 City.
Henry?
2-1 Arsenal.
Henry talks
Dan?
Arsenal.
Yeah, 2-1 Arsenal as well.
Dan talks Arsenal. And Igao, what's your score prediction, bro?
I'm going with 2-1 Arsenal.
2-1 Arsenal. Mine will be out.
Let me guess. You're not going to give yours, are you?
No, mine's going to be on a different preview tomorrow. Don't burn your content, people. You know what I mean? Don't burn your content. You know, at the end of every episode of Game of Thrones, they left you waiting for the next one. That's what you're meant to do.
What time are you going to drop it? Lunchtime.
It depends how drunk I get tonight, to be honest. So it's all dependent on that. I want to say a big thank you to every single person that's tuned in. We're going to give Dan a favor, and we're not going to roast into Chelsea again. We did that earlier on today with Don.
Yeah,
so there we go. We're back tomorrow with more transfer news, a preview for the big game, plus the Liverpool match reaction for the 3 o'clock. It's quite a quiet day tomorrow for top 6 games, which is nice because the UFC is on in Saudi. which means it's on at normal time here in England. So I get to watch my bro, Michael Venom Page, he's fighting. It's actually it's not even it's a fight night, not a standard UFC. And you've got Israel Adesanya and Venom Page on the card. It's better than the last UFC pay-per-view. So yeah, absolutely looking forward to that. Everybody smash the like button before you go. Please make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.